This is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com, and today I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I just gave a talk last night at the Caritas Center to a group of the Boulder Gaia meetup folks, as well as lots of other people from the Abraham group and others. And something that came up in that discussion after the talk or during the talk was the idea of lucid dreaming and lucid living, and the notion that when we notice reality shifts, Mandela effects, and quantum jumps, we're actually playing with reality just like we would do in a lucid dream. And this is something I've mentioned before in my book, Reality Shifts, when consciousness changes the physical world, because it ties in with the ancient practices of the Tibetans and shamans who've been practicing these same techniques for thousands of years. It's really more of an awareness that you are one with everything that is. There's an entanglement, therefore, that's happening between you and the universe. And through this connection, we are capable of exerting non-local effect, basically. So what this means, in simple layman's terms, is that it's possible for us to sometimes have synchronicity when we're in a very highly charged, positively charged state, and usually feeling pretty grounded. So we might say something and it might be a person's name and then there they are, or they phone. We say something or think about something, and shortly afterward or immediately afterward it's right on the radio or on TV or whatever else we're looking at that moment, and there's no way we could have affected it, and it's too unlikely a coincidence, so it's a synchronicity. Now this is a term coined by psychologist Carl Jung. And he had an amazing synchronicity where he was talking about a scarab with a patient, which is an Egyptian beetle, and he's working, I think, in Switzerland, in Europe at the time. As he's talking about it, a scarab shows up at his window. Now, many of us have had similar synchronicities. I find it's very interesting that Carl Jung's friend was a physicist, Wolfgang Pauli, Pauli started experiencing bizarre phenomena, wanted to know what's going on, and the psychology behind things, and was talking a lot with Carl Jung. Pauli himself was quite well known amongst the physics community as someone you don't want to invite to your laboratory, because if he comes, the equipment breaks down and it just doesn't function. So you might be wanting to demonstrate an experiment. You can't because it doesn't work. Pauli broke it just by entering the room. So you might say, what does this have to do with anything? Well, it's another form of entanglement, and it's what happens when you're not grounded. So there's an energetic effect that can occur, and I've experienced this where before I started grounding, I would walk into rooms and the equipment would fail. And I know what that feels like, and it's not fun. The light bulb blows out, the appliances break down, the computer stops working. So I quickly learned I need to stay grounded when I'm doing martial arts, doing Tai Chi, yoga, breathing with lowered abdominal breathing, and basically boosting my energy to high levels. Then I need to stay grounded. So that's sort of the flip side of synchronicity and the Pauli effect. The other idea about lucid living is that it's analogous to having a lucid dream. And in a lucid dream, dreamers often recognize, you can look at your hand in a dream and notice, my hand looks a little different. Like last weekend, I had a dream that I actually was away from home, and in my dream I went back home to check on things, and I was walking through my house toward the front door, and I opened the front door in my dream, but then there was a car outside of the door, just blocking everything right there on the porch, a little tiny white car. So in the dream, I looked at my hand, and I could easily expand it to be very big. I was surprised to see the car, so that woke me up inside the dream. Then I knew I was dreaming, so I could just make my hand really big, pick the car up, move the car, and then just be normal, walk through the door like usual. So that's an example of lucid dreaming. Now, when we have reality shifts and Mandela effects, these are capable of reminding us, or getting us to ask the question, why are these things happening? When we ask that question, you might remember when you were little and adults would annoy you by saying, because. Well, that's because. So it's recognizing that you can be the cause of reality shifts and Mandela effects. And when we globally work together, we are literally capable of changing the world. So you can get global effects. That's the basic idea here. And if you've watched the movie Inception, you remember there was a little dream thing, a spinning top in that dream. in the in the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a fun one. So it's science fiction. It's not reality, but it gives you some ideas of what it feels like to wake up within the dream. Notice that you're not totally in the real reality, that you can actually move your level of observation back a step. And that's the key principle of all of these ideas within reality shifting, Mandela effect, and quantum physics. Because the observer who's observing the other observers is always the one who's going to get the outcome of that entire entangled network of observations that final level observer is observing. That's the one that can pretty much call the shots and decide what's going on. So the idea, as always, is keep asking how good it can get. Keep positive. Recognize that when you leave that positive question open-ended and evolving, it's possible for win-win solution for all of us. So until next time, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com. Thanks so much.